The king and foul weather. They say that moonlight is dangerous. To sleep in the light of the full moon. Foolhardy. They say the wolf will stalk you through the lost labyrinths of your dreams, that you may wake to find the world changed. Long ago and far away, or perhaps yesterday or possibly tomorrow, a king decided to build a great church with a spire so high that perched on its golden weathercock you might reach out and touch the silver globe of the full moon as it sailed past. He paced out the plan of the new church through the crooked lanes and the age-old ancient buildings of the old town. Soon the pillars began to grow like trees amongst the houses, but alas, all the king's golden angels were gone, all his silver nobles were spent. Then one day as he hunted the wary wild boar high in the mountains, he met an old man in the woods, a stranger who seemed to know his troubles without asking, a foreigner who had never lived anywhere else, an unfriendly friend in the forest. "I will build your church," he answered without being asked. "Ah, but what will it cost me?" the king replied. "Not a penny, not a pot of gold, not a fine horse or a dappled hound." "What will you ask then?" "If you can tell me my name before the building's done, a bright new church you will have won. If you can't call my name before that day, with your own beating heart you will pay." Time stretched out before the king. A church of this size, of this cloud-cutting height, would take a lifetime to build. He might be dead before they melted the silver lead and sealed the staggering heights of the high roofs. The next day the king looked out from the highest tower of his palace, saw the swallows soar above the town, watched the people go to market and return home. Not a stone was moved, not a timber cut, all the day long. Even as the sun sunk, strange music could be heard, trumpets and pipes, the knackers and the rebeck, the timbrel and the symphony, the harp and the bouzine, clanging bells and the sweet psaltery, and then the heavy pounding of bare feet. Down from the mountains the goblins poured, like ants from a broken anthill. They carried huge stones on their broad shoulders, bearing windows of shimmering stained glass. Angels were held aloft by massive hands, and a golden weathercock glowed in the last rays of the setting sun. As the king watched in horror, houses were torn down and walls rose. The ancient orchards of the city were butchered before their blossom could set, and his startled subjects grabbed what little they could as their homes fell in clouds of dust. Then they fled to the fields beyond the town. The king called out a string of names, every name he had ever heard or could invent. Loud was the laughter of the goblins, louder than the cacophony of the wild band that played, louder than the play of hammers on stone and the screams of the townsfolk as their ancient, ancestral homes fell before the flight of the flying wrecking balls. No longer able to bear witness, to see the destruction and watch as the spires rose like grass after a summer storm, the king left his palace and wandered in the mountains where once he had chased the delicate, swift-footed deer. After many hours alone, he found a cave in the forest. Bleached bones lay in the rank grass, smoke billowed from the cavern's broad mouth, and the deafening wailing issued from its dark, musty depths. Loud footfalls echoed from deep in the cave, and a terrible voice called from the dark, "Never you grizzle, son. Your old dad Foulweather is bringing you a nice heart to chew on. He won't be long." The king raced to his horse and rode through the night. As he reached the town, there was his church, the spire high amongst the clouds, and barely visible at its pinnacle, the old man from the woods was fitting the weathercock and mumbling about a fine present he would bring home for his son. "Set it straight, Foulweather," screamed the king. The goblin king paused. The dawn sun peeked above the horizon. Foulweather turned his head, felt the morning light, chilling his bones, lost his grip and fell like Lucifer, down and down, an aging falling. Then as he fell to earth he shattered into 1,000 black shards of obsidian, scattering across the ground. Still the goblin band played on, clinging to the high corbel table just below the parapet around the nave. But as the sun fell on the walls of the church, the thick black blood in their veins congealed, and their limbs turned to stone. They say that moonlight is dangerous. To sleep in the light of the full moon, foolhardy. They say that when the chimes at midnight stir the air, and the moon is full, the oak leaves carved in the stones of the church spire snake upwards till they meet the crooked weathercock, and that then the band stir their stiff limbs and play their wild songs until the dawn breaks high above the tomb of the old king.